Okay, now we'll start there. So thanks all for coming. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Charisse Allegrini. I am the president of the Lavaca Neighborhood Association and finishing up my 4th year as president. I had one more year before that as treasurer. And at the end of this meeting, I'll talk a little bit about board membership and how we'd love for you all to come and participate. This format is, not as fun as doing it in person at Freetail. We're really hoping that the next meeting we'll be able to do in person. But the way the format generally works is we've got some items we want to cover. There'll be opportunity for you all to speak at each time when we talk about the item. What I ask for you to do, if it's possible, is in the chat to put your name. We call it stack. If you put your name and just put stack, then I know to call on you. Or you can, there's a little function to raise your hand in the in the Zoom. So if you see that it's a reaction, you can raise your hand. And if you don't have options to do either of those things, then go ahead and speak up when we say it's time to ask for questions. But I found that it's useful if we've got the stack to have somebody be able to call on that. All right, so and then I just know that you're in order, so that will be helpful. So thanks all. I just wanted to start off with a list of who is on our board so that you're all aware, and most of this information should be on our website. We always start off a meeting with the rousing cheer of Viva Lavaca. I know that's kind of hard to do online like this, so Viva Lavaca.
Viva Lavaca.
All right, thanks y'all. So let's start with, I know we had some elected officials or their representatives that said they were going to come. If they're not here yet, I'll wait till the end to have them. But I know that our safe officer McCall is here, and then Officer Flavin had said he wanted to speak. So Officer McCall, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you. First, I'll be glad to when we can get back to in-person meetings. It just feels so much more personal when you're in person. I've been looking at the crime stats. I was having some problems with the software. I'm working with our IT. I found kind of a workaround, so I got some numbers. I've been looking at what's been going on in Lavaca. One of the things I saw was the burglaries of buildings went up a little bit. I'll be talking to property crimes. It wasn't drastic, but it went up enough that I'm going to talk to them and see if they know, if I can work with them somehow to bring that back down. Burglaries of vehicles went up just slightly. The criminal mischief was the most noticeable number that went up. We know we had a little bit of a spike between Lavaca and King William with some taggers doing graffiti, and that falls under the criminal mischief cases. They went from 6 months ago up till 3 months ago. There were only 3 that I saw in the crime stats, but then from 3 months ago until today, there were 15. That's a very noticeable difference for me. So I'm going to be working with them with property crimes on that also. We've got pretty good info on some of the taggers, and we're going after them. But there were also some of the cases that were more personal type stuff. It was almost like almost retaliation kind of stuff. Somebody that knew someone and slashed their tires and that kind of thing. It was just strange that there was an increase that noticeable. The good thing is thefts of vehicles went from 6 down to 1 in the last 3 months. So that was definitely an improvement. Some of the issues I've been working with Lavaca on, the Southtown Community Garden, that situation I think has gotten a lot better. It's appearance-wise, it looks a lot better. I go out there every couple of days, as often as I can. I go by there to check on the status of it. I go by the church that's right across the street, and it's looking a lot better. We've got the camps cleaned out, got the trash picked up. The park seems like it's being taken care of a lot better. So I think that situation has improved. That was one of the bigger issues that I've been working with. We know there've been some problems with the Saha housing over on Barrera that's going through renovation. There's some problems with the noise there. I'm working with one of the constituent services people at City Council District 1. They're aware of that problem and they're trying to work on that to see if we can somehow, I guess, accelerate some kind of a resolution, a fix. We know basically what has to be done. So it's more of a mechanical thing, retrofitting that has to be done to the equipment. So we're trying to find a way to step that up and try to fix that issue. So that's been something that I've been trying, even though it's not really anything law enforcement can do anything about. I've been just trying to talk to people and see if we can keep the issue moving and make sure we get it, because I could see where it would be a little bit irritating to the people that live around it if they can hear that almost a droning sound. But there is a fix in the works, so hopefully we'll have that issue taken care of here soon.
Thanks so much, Officer McCall. We appreciate it. And we appreciate being back in touch and sorry, just checking that. And we look forward to seeing you in person, but thanks for your time. And I will concur that the issue on the Victoria Plaza building, that's the one with the noise that is pretty significant. And we've all been trying to find ways to resolve it. So thanks for stepping in. And the community garden has come up a lot. I agree. It's looking pretty good these days. And just for all of y'all out there who may not be aware, the community garden is not a public park. It's leased to a private group who manage it, and the group is called Southtown Community Garden. The two individuals, or the one individual really that's responsible for it, doesn't live in the area, but we are in pretty close contact with her to make sure things are kept managed. But it's not a city park, and it's not actually affiliated with Lavaca in any way. It is leased to a private group. But thanks for that, Officer McCall. I know it's gone up and down. Let me just see if there's any questions before. Oh yeah, thanks, Kat. Yeah, please. Okay, just checking to see if anybody. It's kind of weird doing chat and the other thing at the same time. Officer Flavin, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for letting me invite myself. Can y'all see me?
Yep.
Okay. Just to let you know, my name is Assistant Chief James Flavin. I'm one of the 2 assistant chiefs on the police department. I work directly for Chief McManus. My side of the house is called the Operations Support Bureau. And what I have is I have basically all the investigators in the department, the fusion center, the undercover people, things like that. The other assistant chief has everyone in uniform, so he has kind of the bigger part of the department. What we're doing is the assistant chiefs and the deputy chiefs are going around. So, since Chief McManus can't be everywhere at once, we're trying to make as many as the neighborhood associations and homeowners associations in the city we can. There's about 450 odd neighborhood associations in the city. And so we're trying to make as many as we can. Not all are active, especially since COVID is going on, but things seem to be getting a little bit better, and the participation seems to be getting a little bit better. And we're looking forward to more of them getting back to in person as well. I want to talk to you real quick, just bring a couple of messages from the chief. If you have not heard of the community notification program, that's our new text notification program where we push information out to the public. You have to sign up for this. If you can see this, what you do is you text into your phone 39987, text SAPD to that number and press enter to get you signed up. And I'm going to put this information in the chat, but what this does is it gets you, it's getting off the ground. We're getting more and more information out, but it gets you crime information, crime tips, safety tips, crime prevention tips, things like that. And it also, if you make a call to the police, it will give you, from that number, it'll give you back your case number, the officer assigned, and then you get a survey at the end to ask, how did we do on that call, which is very important to the chief. The chief fought really hard for this in last year's budget. I think this is going to keep getting better and better as time goes on. I'll put that information in the chat, how to sign up. And then I recommend it. It's pretty cool. My whole family signed up and they like it, and it's a pretty neat deal. The other thing I want to talk to you about, if you have not ever considered attending the Citizens Police Academy, it is back up and running. It's a 12-week commitment, 3 hours a night on Tuesdays for 12 weeks. You get to see a side of the department behind the scenes that no one gets to see, and it's really awesome. I'll put a little information about that. If you're interested, I'm going to put Officer Randy McCumbers at the Academy, his phone number. You can get signed up for that. There's more information online if you want to see some details and see some videos from the chief. But it is really, really cool. I was privileged enough to be the training academy commander years ago, and it's a fantastic program. You get to see a side of the department that no one gets to see. So I'll put information about that on how to sign up as well. National, as you know, the National Night Out was canceled. We were going to call it it had a new name, the San Antonio Neighbors Together. Unfortunately, because of COVID, that got canceled, and we're going to hope to get that going again next year. So I'm going to leave it at that. Does anyone have any questions at the kind of the department level for me, or a message that you would like me to take back to Chief McManus? Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me speak again and invite myself, and I will put that information in the chat. And if you have any questions, I'm going to put my information in there. You can call me or email me afterwards as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you are welcome to join us at any time. And we'll make sure that normally we're in person at Freetail, which is a lot more fun than
that sounds like more fun.
We'll get that information also. We'll send it out in our e-blast.
Very good.
So thanks all. Okay, moving on. We are fortunate to have as both our vice president and our SAISD board trustee is the same person, Sarah Sorensen, and she'll give us a little bit of an update on where we are with the SAISD bond and Burnett Elementary, or Burnett campus, I should say.
Hi, great, thank you. Yeah, so I can give you a little bit of an update. We're gonna, soon, some of you may have seen some movement around at the Burnett campus. In the past bond, in the 2020 bond, the community voted to support redevelopment of that campus to serve the needs of Bonham, as Bonham Academy is growing and running out of space on that campus. At this point, there's been discussions at the campus level, initial discussions of what's needed for the design, and we're looking at moving into the next phase of sharing that with the community and getting community input about the design, looking at the physical, what the physical structure of the building should look like, but also talking about the culture of the community, the culture of the school, and having discussions around that. At this point, and it's not finalized yet, there's a tentative meeting date of October 14th. And I hope to finalize that soon, get some final clarity if that's going to happen on that date. I believe it is actually going to focus on all the District 1 bond projects. So that will be Bonham in the Burnett building, ALA, Fox Tech, Brackenridge, who else is under, Bowden and Lamar are also have received funding in that bond. So what I've been told is that it will be kind of a general overview of the bond funds, and then breaking out into groups to focus on the individual campuses that people want to focus on. And it is going to be in person with remote options. So as those details become available, I'll let folks know. Maybe we can put it out in the e-blast if people would like to know that. And just as another separate piece from the bond, last night we at the board meeting appointed an interim superintendent. If some of you may be aware, our superintendent Pedro Martinez has accepted a position as the head of Chicago Public Schools. And so last night we appointed Robert Ducklich to serve as an interim while we go through the process of finding a superintendent. So just to let you guys know, if there's any questions you have or any concerns that are going around with issues in the schools, if you want to let me know in the chat, or I can put my email down as well and you can reach out to me that way.
Sorry, it's hard to unmute when I've got the screen share on. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that. It doesn't look like there's any questions. I don't see any hands up. It's kind of funky. And normally we're a little more organized in old business, news business, but I just want to get everything in tonight. So just FYI, minutes from previous meetings as well as board meetings are online. Sometimes they're the draft minutes because I try to post them so that people can see what's up before they've been approved. Just keep that in mind. And then it's at lavaca.net. So go to our website if you don't. We're really trying to keep that updated with all the information that's going on. We've added some new pages about topics. So go to lavaca.net for the minutes of the previous meeting. And just briefly, our treasurer is not here, but a finance report. In our bank account, we have $12,817. Most of that's a carryover from the last few years. We haven't done any fundraisers for the past almost 2 years now. And most of our income comes from selling metals and doing some other small fundraisers, which we haven't been able to do. That's okay because we don't have plans for it yet. We did have some big ideas, but we need to raise a lot more before we can do a whole lot with that. But we do need some operating funds, which means paying for our insurance and some of the permits that we have to pay for on occasion. So that's what it goes to. But now it's been kind of stable for a while. I want to jump into Victoria Commons and just give you an update on where we are with that. Most of you, or many of you, have heard about everything that's been going on with Victoria Commons over the last really 20 something years now. It's been a very long time, but a lot of activity of late. So the Victoria Commons area is the area that was Victoria Courts. It includes technically Victoria Plaza, which is that 9-story apartment complex on the west side of Labor, on the north side of Barrera Street. That is still under renovations. I was told that they are set to have move-in in October, but I was told they were set to have move-in last summer too. So it's been a while, but that is 100% affordable housing for elderly and disabled, who were the individuals that were living there before the renovations took place. And it's my understanding that many of them have first dibs to return, but I honestly don't have the details of that. But that will hopefully get populated again soon. As you know, Hemisphere Village and Refugio Place are the apartment complexes that have been there for a long time. The townhomes, Artisan Park townhomes next to those apartments. 100 Labor, that's the big construction project you see going on Labor Street and Cesar Chavez. It's actually, here it shows you just on one side of the street. It's actually on both sides. There's an apartment complex on one side and townhomes on the other. That's 100 Labor Street. The administration building, that's the original administration building. It's an historic site. There's still some question as what's going to happen with that, because you see on this map, that space includes the basketball court and a significant chunk of the park. We are working with Saha to keep that, and I'll go into that in a second. Sorry, I see the chat. I want to make sure I'm not missing questions, but I'll take questions on this when I'm finished with it. And then we have the townhome lots, and then the south and north pond basins, as well as the childcare site, which is on the corner of Lay and Labor Street. So that's just the area that we're looking at. This was the last rezoning. Before it passed last week, the zoning was IDZ. IDZ, I kind of describe as a free-for-all with basically no restrictions. It's not exactly true, but it's very, very loose. And one of the reasons we now have IDZ 1, 2, and 3 is because developers were going a little bit haywire, and a lot of residents got very upset with basically developers can choose which restrictions they wanted. And it was causing a lot of issues in neighborhoods. So there's IDZ 1, 2, and 3. And these sites went to IDZ 3, I believe. The childcare site is still IDZ. And then the townhome sites are IDZ 2. And that did pass at City Council last week. And just to show you a little bit about the layout of what it's going to look like, the townhomes, the townhomes, there's going to be, they said 86. Keep in mind that all of these numbers are going to change, and they're most likely going to go down. They always start with what they want to do, and then it gets cut back as costs come in and construction issues come in. And so there's always less than they start with. But the townhomes, they said about 86. And then the childcare site will be about 20 units per acre. And that site's about 1.5 acres. In both the townhomes and the childcare site, none of that will be affordable housing. It'll be 100% market rate. And then there's restrictions on the heights and whatnot. I didn't include that all in here because I don't want to go through the whole thing, but it is available online. The administration building, we are still looking at options for that. We are trying to work with Saha and the city to get a land swap so that we can retain the park and develop that admin building as a community center and various other things that are meant more for the people that live here than just another condo complex. But that's still in progress. I just wanted to note the number of units. I didn't include Hemisphere and Refugio have about 400 units, a little more than 400 between the two of them. One of those buildings is 50% affordable and the other one's about 30% affordable. Somebody can correct me on that. I didn't have the specific number, so I didn't want to include that. But Victoria Plaza, that's that 9-story building that has already existed for many, many years and it's just finishing renovated. That has 185 units, 100% affordable, set to reopen very soon. And that's purely for elderly. That's not workforce housing. Elderly and disabled will be there. The other affordable units are going to be at 100 labor. So that's already in the works. But of the 213 units, only 43% will be affordable. I don't have the specific breakdown of affordability for those. The last time I saw that it was something like 60% AMI. 60% AMI is, I believe, about a family of 4 earning $45,000 to $50,000 a year, which is a lot of teachers, a lot of downtown office workers, a lot of the hotel staff, etc. The North Pond Apartments, they're predicting 130 units. That's about 100 less than they originally planned. It would be 100% workforce housing at 40 to 60% AMI. So again, this is housing aimed at people that work downtown, people that work in the hotels, people that work in offices, people that work for nonprofits downtown, etc. The South Pond will have more at 250 units. Only 50% of those will be affordable. And the breakdown is 40% will be at 80% AMI. 80% AMI is, I think, about 60,000 for a family of 4. And 10% will be at 60% AMI. So again, this is workforce housing. These are folks with jobs that make it difficult to live nearby because the housing prices in our area have gone up so much. So as I said, it went through zoning and planning last month and then went to city council on the 16th. Generally, the items in question were downzoned from IDZ to IDZ 2 and 3. That means the density was decreased. There's an increase in parking requirements, an increase in setbacks, limits on the height, and their adherence to site plan. All those things are part of IDZ 2 and 3, which were not a requirement in IDZ. With IDZ, they get to choose 1 or 2 things that they want to adhere to. Another element is that Santos Street, which is kind of in the north end of that area that connects to Cesar Chavez, they're making sure that there's going to be an egress and ingress into the North Pond apartments. The townhomes will be built first. That's kind of been the plan all along. And then the Lay Street neighbors made an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with Saha to increase the number of parking spaces to 1.5 per unit. That's comparable to what is at Hemisphere and Refugio and at 100 Labor. They have about 1.5 parking spots per unit. And the other thing is McMonagle Extension. So I just want to show you on the map again. Right now, McMonagle Place ends at the park. It's been proposed that this be extended out to Labor Street to provide another way for people that live back in these apartments to get into the area. So Saha had agreed to do that, or well, that was going to be part of the plan, but exactly how that looked was still in question. But with this MOU with some Lay Street neighbors, they've agreed to privately fund that. It's also going to be privately operated. And that was at the request of the lawyer working for the Lay Street neighbors, that it would be privately funded and privately operated. That means that, let me just go back. That means that Saha will pay to build it. Saha is federal funds, so it's still taxpayer dollars, but it'll be federal instead of city taxes that pay for it. But it'll be managed by the developer, or if it's an HOA that has the childcare site where there's going to be condos, they will be the ones to control the street because it's going to be privately developed by whoever develops that area, which is contracted from Saha. That means that in the long run, they can do what they want with it. That could be closing it off if they choose to, or not, because it's not a public street. It could mean they have different requirements for how they build it, and then it's maintained by the HOA that's there. It won't be maintained by the city because it's not city property. It's possible, Saha is very open to giving it to the city, but the city doesn't have to accept it. And quite often the city doesn't accept those things because it's a big expense to the city. But that's the agreement that was made for this plan. And with that agreement, the Lay Street neighbors withdrew their opposition, so it passed on consent on Thursday. One other thing I wanted to point out about the Victoria Commons proposal, something that Saha and Catalyst have been working with TxDOT on, is to create a walking path that really connects neighborhoods. This is actually part of a much bigger aim. It's not really a project yet, but an aim with other neighborhoods like King William and Lone Star and Roosevelt to make walkable areas that aren't city streets to connect. And honestly, this area it's not wide enough for an actual street, because I asked them, but they're looking at making a path that comes from downtown, basically along the access road. You know, there's a path along Hemisphere, or the Institute for Texan Cultures area, but extending that all the way, so it comes all the way down through the neighborhood, all the way down to the railroad tracks, and then maybe crosses over through to Roosevelt Park. So that's one of the things they're looking at doing. I believe TxDOT is very open to that plan, and that how it works will come into place with the developers that they finally choose to build. So I think that was the last thing. Oh, and this one other thing. So there is a request to turn one of the streets called Peyton Path into a green space. So they don't have an actual design yet, but it would probably look something like this middle photo. So instead of a street with cars going through here, it would be a green space for people to walk. And it's deeded that it's public access at all times. So it's not going to be a private front yard for anyone. It'll be public access, but it'll be green space rather than street space. All right, I'm going to stop. And Melissa asked, would this also be a bike path? Probably. And I think that's something that we can work on with the developers. Why are we supporting more high density residential in this area? Did the board contact the property owners adjacent before they sent the letter supporting this to the city? How is the loss of drainage going to be offset? So on the drainage, the engineers can talk to that. That's been discussed. There's been, I can't even tell you how many hours of discussion, well over 100 in the last 18 months about this. 30 to 40 meetings at least over the last 18 months about the density. The area was dense to begin with. It only became less dense when they tore down Victoria Courts. It's always been slated to be a high density area. So that's not anything new, but yes, there were many discussions with the property owners. And as I say, the Lay Street neighbors did withdraw their opposition to the project. I don't know that the Artisan Park neighbors made a statement in the end, but they did not speak out against it at the council meeting. Regarding the drainage, that's really a question for the engineers, but that's been addressed in many of the meetings that we've had. And I'm not an engineer, so I'm not gonna speak to that. see, was there anything else? Okay, were there any other questions about Victoria Commons? It's gone through already. Oh, Sarah Duran has her hand raised.
Hi, yes, this is Sarah. I'm from Representative Bernal's office. I was just wondering if you could briefly go back to the slide that shows the number of units and the percentage of affordable housing.
This?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to take one more look at that.
Okay, and I can get more details on that. That's sort of taken from the last few presentations, and I did check with Tim Alcott for these numbers, but there's I don't know how many units are affordable currently in Hemisphere and Refugio. Anything else on this?
I had a question, Sharice. I put it in the chat. You know, high density residential was not in the original master plan that was approved by Catalyst and Saha in the city. That was all going to be townhomes and some other things. So this change to going back to high density residential seems somewhat like a bait and switch.
Okay, that's not the information we have from the original plan, but that's something you can take up with Saha. It was discussed with the residents over since February of 2020. And all of the minutes and all of the discussions, and they did go back and forth quite a lot. All of that's been in discussion, and the minutes of everything that we have, including some of the emails, are on lavaca.net. So you can review that and see. But when the Victoria Courts apartments were originally torn down, the plan was to create mixed income housing. The plan was mixed income, with the high end being about 60% AMI, not market rate. That has definitely changed, where the majority of residences are market rate. They're trying to even it out a little bit to 50% affordable and 50% market rate, but it has always intended to be high density, according to the original documents that were laid out 20 years ago. And I know that they had discussions. They chose not to do apartments, so there was supposed to be apartments where the townhomes are proposed. And in the agreement, and Catalyst was not involved at the time, between Saha and Artisan Park HOA, the agreement was that those streets would be townhomes only. And that is consistent. Those are townhomes only. So that agreement you can find. We have it on the website, I think. I know Salsa from Artisan Park HOA has that because she was really involved in that process. And they are still doing townhomes there. That's not changed. But you can talk more with Tim Alcott. I recommend you talk to Salsa, Artisan Park, and some of the Lay Street neighbors, but there have been many discussions about it. Susan, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just to be clear, the townhomes, are those the ones that are going to be at 100 labor?
There's a mix. So let me go back up. 100 labor, there's two sides to it. There's the west side of the street, which I believe are townhomes.
Okay.
And then the east side of the street, which I think are more apartment or condo-like than townhomes. I've not seen the design in a very long time, so I don't want to speak out of turn. I know I have diagrams from it. I can pull them up. I might ask the architects to send us the latest rendering, and we can send that out via e-blast so you all can see it.
Okay. And then I needed to ask you to go forward again. I think 2 slides from where another one, go again. One more there, right here about back one.
Sorry, back one, that one?
Yeah, where it's talking about I-37. So they're talking about extending the multi-use path along I-37 all the way up through to Florida and Carolina.
Right. Actually, that goes all the way down to the railroad tracks. So the railroad tracks are down here. Florida and Carolina are here. Okay. And so it would come all the way down to the railroad tracks.
Oh, alongside, like, because you just alongside the highway, then all the way down where those streets dead end, like Kearney and all of that.
Right. Pretty much.
Okay. Wow. That would definitely get them access to the. Yeah, that's part of that mobility committee group thing, I think, right? They were
Right.
talking about it today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely was in the works with Activate SA, and it's a
Yeah.
kind of an effort through a lot of different organizations to try to
Right.
connect neighborhoods through footpaths. And
Yeah, I just
discourage
wasn't
driving.
clear exactly what they were gonna, how far that was gonna go, but I understand now. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Loretta, do I see a hand up? You're on mute, Loretta. You're muted. Let me see. I can't unmute you.
Okay.
There we go.
On Lavaca Street from Labor to South Alamo, with the traffic we have now, which is not horrible, but with all the building that's going on, it is going to become a well-trafficked street.
Mhm.
So I haven't heard a word from anyone about any plans for Lavaca Street from Labor to South Alamo.
I've not heard much either, to be honest. And
That's what I'm afraid of.
well, and so here's the deal and how it works. Saha can deal with Saha property and only Saha property. Catalyst does have a little bit of leeway to do some things on Labor Street as it connects or to the Saha property, but not anywhere else. Everywhere else, we have to recommend to the city to get involved. So what I would suggest is you connect with Jim. We're going to talk about traffic in a minute, but I'm going to suggest that you connect with Jim Johnson. He'll be on in a minute to talk about what those needs are for Lavaca Street, because they are working on a traffic plan for everything. Let me hold on. And I see there's a lot of discussion in the chat, but it looks like y'all are answering each other. So that's great. And we'll capture the chat at the end. Let me go ahead and move on unless there's other, let me talk about the patio really quick and then we'll get back to the traffic. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say that, so the patio, it's called the patio, but it's had a lot of names over the years. This is the property across from Taco Haven. So it's actually 3 lots. There's a parking lot, there's the little building that was most recently the patio, and then there's the car wash. There's been a request for demolition of the patio. They haven't yet submitted the request for demolition of the car wash, but they're going to. We've had some discussion internally about whether or not to approve that. It's not in the historic district, but it's in the National Conservation District, I believe, which does mean that it has certain requirements that it has to adhere to, which are a little different than historic. There's concern, not so much because anybody loves that building, but that what's going to replace it, and that if we support demolition of it, the replacement will be problematic. So we actually met with a representative from the company last year in the zoning process, and their plan was to leave it as is. They were going to put lots of planters up, make it very walkable and really nice. And then this year we said, oh, well, why are you demolishing it? And we got a note saying, well, it's the same plan as last year. And like, yeah, no, we didn't see that plan. So I'm just going to show you quickly the plan that they told us. I looked at the date. This actually has been in the works since January. That's when they made the design, but they only gave it to us when we asked for something. So this is on the right is the diagram of the space. As you can see, it's quite a big parcel. And then on the left is their proposal for what they want to put there. I think McIntyre's is a chain. I will say, just so you know, we do get asked as a board to weigh in on HDRC matters, zoning, planning. Sometimes that has an impact, sometimes it doesn't. Quite often the commissioners have already made a decision and they just want to feel better about their decision if the neighborhood approves, but it often doesn't change their mind. What works more often is for us to work with the developer in the process and get them to make compromises. That's something that, and often, behind the scenes doesn't mean behind closed doors. Anybody's welcome to participate in that, but it usually happens with the people at our architecture committee and some of our board that will meet with the developers for many months, going over the designs, addressing some of the issues. And our architects on the board all live in the neighborhood. They're all historic preservationists. And they'll often be able to influence the long-term design of a plan. That tends to be a lot more effective than just going to zoning or historic and opposing it, in my experience. And so that is what we're doing here. We did send a letter. The board agreed that we would send a letter saying we're not happy with demolition because we don't like what the proposition is for replacement. We didn't have a good argument to not demolish those buildings, but the argument that what they're recommending in place is problematic. So that I just wanted to bring that up. That's how the process works. You're welcome to weigh in on it. I'll be honest, we don't share every single case that comes through us because there are a lot of cases. There's no way we can keep up with that and share every single one that comes up. We do try to share the bigger ones, the ones that are a bigger issue or the ones that are asking for demolition. But there's probably three or four every zoning planning, not planning so much, but every zoning meeting and HDRC meeting. But those are always available online. You can get them from the city's website if you want to, if that's something that's important to you to keep up with, check that out. And also let us know if you have a specific thought on a particular case. I'm going to stop there on that topic. Did anybody have anything to add on that?
No, I just saw that there was something about a brewery application for something on St. Mary's. I saw that was in the zoning commission somewhere in there. And so I wondered if that's what this was, but I just looked them up online and they're like ice house style type things out of Houston.
Oh, okay.
That's what we need.
This is out of Houston, but the address for this is South Presa. So they haven't actually asked to do anything with the St. Mary's lot yet. So if you see St. Mary Street, it's not this, at least as far as I know. I haven't received anything. Let me know if you want to just share it with me. You can send it to president@lavaca.net and I can check it out to see where that is. I'm not aware of it. Oh, is the laundromat turning into an ice house? You know what? That's a rumor. Yeah, I did see that liquor license. If somebody can take a photo of it and send it, or we can contact, I've not received a notification about it. I suspect the zoning allows for it, so they don't need to have a zoning change. So that's why we haven't received a notification about it yet. But if you can get that number for me, or I'll try to remember to get it. I can't promise. Then we can follow up on that to see what's there. Specific name. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Melissa. Okay, so any questions about that? Anybody feel strongly about saving that building or feel strongly about demolishing that building or really loves McIntyre's and wants to vote in support of it? And so we could argue. Let us know so we can share that. Nope. Okay. I will go on. I'm going to turn it over to Jim and Melissa now to talk about the traffic improvement plan.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you don't know me, nor do I know you. Forgive me. I'm new to Lavaca, but I did live in King William for 7 years, so I'm fairly familiar with Southtown. About November of last year, we began an effort. I say we, Melissa and I and Sarah Sorensen, who was very happily, in my opinion, elected to the school board. So her time became that she couldn't share with us on the traffic issues. Since then, we have submitted petitions for 2 streets, Divine and Carolina. So briefly, if you want something done on a street with regard to traffic, at least, you must obtain a petition. It's available on the city website. Print that out, take it to your neighbors. It has to be a 1/4 length mile long. 7% of the residents on that stretch of street must agree to traffic calming. That petition then goes to the city. They verify the signatures. At some point, a traffic study is done, and then you just have to wait and see. To date, we've received nothing back on the 2 streets for which petitions were submitted. We intend to continue with the petition process on other streets that do need traffic calming. To everyone here probably wants to know about the stop signs. So briefly, I emailed the city public services website via their email app and asked how could stop signs be put in place. That eventually led to a conversation with a gentleman named Mark Jacobson, who is a program manager at the city with respect to traffic issues. He asked where we wanted these stop signs. We gave him a list. You can see where the yellow dot or circles or whatever shape that is, and gave that back to him. And in the process of the last 10 or 12 days or so, I guess we've been trying to get flyers out to everyone in the neighborhood to be able to weigh in. This is not a done deal. So eliminations, more additions for that matter, can be asked for if you so desire. So I will stop there. And if you have any questions of me, please ask.
I'm raising my hand for this one. This is Marcy.
Yeah, so hang on one second, Marcy. I was just about to call on you, but I wanted to see if Melissa, who is one of the organizers, had anything to add before we took questions.
Sure. So the petitions that Jim mentioned for Caroline and Divine were the official city petitions asking for traffic calming measures per a traffic calming study. And so the the additional streets with the stop sign deal was also based on resident requests or feedback for traffic calming, and was put in to the stop sign opportunity here. And petitions were also brought by those streets in the last 2 weeks. Notifications were handed out as well. Of course, it's a big effort. So as far as when those residents got them, that varies a little bit, but tried to reach everybody and make sure everyone had a chance for input. And then signatures were collected to on some of those to also make sure there was majority support.
Thanks. Thanks.
Question,
Yes, hold on.
Melissa, question?
Hold on one second, Loretta. I want to go in order, and I know Marcy wanted to. She's been raising her hand since the beginning of the meeting, so I'm going to let Marcy speak first. Go ahead, Marcy.
Okay, I appreciate that everyone wants to try to calm traffic in the neighborhood, especially in the future when there's things that go on in Victoria Commons. But a lot of those problems don't exist today. There are no accident histories in any of these areas, and I'm not sure what efforts actually were done on some of these streets, because I know many of the people right at the intersections where these traffic signs were proposed were not contacted at all. And that applies to those of us on Callahan, which has now been removed, those on Lay Street and Eager, I know were not contacted as well. And I think it's important to understand that when you put a stop sign in, a 4-way stop like that, the houses on the corner lose all their parking on the street. By law, you can't park within 30 feet of a stop sign. So as an example, our house here at Callahan and Eager, we would have no street parking left because we'd have stop signs not one, but 2 sides. So, I think it's important before we send a request to the city that the board and or the committees make a much more diligent effort to speak to the people that are going to be directly impacted by this. Because we're trying to solve a problem, but we're not talking to the people that are, you're creating a problem for those that are going to be near the stop sign. Every research study done on always stops says that it increases noise, it increases pollution for those people that are directly adjacent. And in our case means those of us there at the stop signs no longer have any street parking. These are very narrow lots. Beyond the 30 feet, we don't have any parking left. And I just think it's, the point I want to emphasize is that for something of this nature to go to the city without talking to the people in the neighborhood as a whole, getting these flyers out, going door to door, I don't think that's the appropriate way to handle something that's going to impact a lot of people that haven't been consulted.
Thank you, Marcy. Ellen?
Hi, my name is Ellen Pitluck, and I live at the corner of Lay and Eager. I work from home, so no one's made contact with me about a proposed stop sign, and it really caught me by surprise. I, like Marcy, that will put a cramp in anyone who comes to visit. I can't even imagine what holidays will be like, but anyway, I just was shocked that I'm pretty available here at my house, and a lot of people know me, that no one made the effort to reach out. I didn't get a flyer in my mailbox on my front porch. I don't even have a fence to mount around my front yard. So I just, it was a surprise. And I wonder if we couldn't have something like a speed bump. Right now, I don't think we have a problem. Now, once the townhomes are built, maybe it's time to come back and revisit. It feels like a solution in search of a problem to me. So that's my 2 cents, Sharice and Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. And even though I'm the one speaking, that's just because it's my job. I'm not the only person on the neighborhood association board. There are 12 of us. I just want to make that clear. I know a lot of people think it's just me. I don't do all of the work. We have a lot of people doing a lot of work. Loretta, you wanted to speak next?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to echo Ellen. I'm wondering how we were contacted. I've received nothing. And when we are traveling, how do we get this information to be able to respond?
So Loretta, I thought I saw you asked online for a stop sign on Lavaca Street.
I did,
Oh.
in response to your efforts to get a stop sign in your area. Yes, I did. And we do need one, and we will need one.
So Jim posted his email in there. So you can send an email to him. It's in the chat, but it also, if you send it to President Lavaca, I can also forward to him. I forgot to add that a number of people on Barrera Street also asked for a stop sign at Barrera and Indianola. Yeah. That's been a long time in coming. So that was added to the list. I'll just say I'm on one of those corners, Divine and Eager, and my neighbors on Divine have been trying to do traffic studies. There's been at least 2 in the time that I've lived here. I've been here 16, a long time, since 2004. And we've had at least 2 traffic studies trying to get a stop sign there. People are really desperate for one on Divine Street because the traffic is really fast. And I am on the corner. And one of the challenges we have on that corner is that, so it's not been that bad since the church has not been in session since the pandemic started. When the church is in session, they're there every day of the week. It's not just a Sunday thing. They're there until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, a big chunk of Saturday, and a big chunk of Sunday. And They park right on the corner of Divine and Eager, as close to the corner as you can get on Divine. And I drive down Eager to turn or cross Divine. It's extremely dangerous because you can't see anything because the cars are far too close to the curb. So on that corner, at least, there's definitely support for it. 1, to slow down traffic, and 2, because parking too close to that that corner is extremely dangerous. We've had a number of near misses there. We also have a lot of pedestrians in the area for whom it's a problem. And unfortunately, the state traffic laws are focused on cars, not on people. There's a few hands up. So I see Sarah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted just to say, you know, I know Jim and Melissa worked really hard and tried to do made an effort at outreach, and I'm sure are open to, you know, to hearing from folks if they miss people. I think the experience has been it's really challenging to get any sort of traffic calming measures on our streets. And you know, someone had mentioned speed bumps. That has, I mean, maybe that's something on Carolina that wasn't have an option. So I know this was, you know, kind of like finally like a feeling of maybe there's some progress. I don't, if I'm speaking out of turn, please correct me, Jim and Melissa. But you know, I think this is a movement that I've seen on any kind of traffic calming stuff in a while since in the neighborhood. So yeah, I think it's great that we're having this discussion as we move forward, and I just wanted to recognize that.
Yeah, and this was, someone asked this question, this was specifically about east-west traffic. So there's some other questions about maybe Labor Street, for instance. This was about east-west traffic. And this was a situation where an opportunity, like someone listening, kind of came before asking everybody for permission per se. So we're trying to throw out there our best suggestions based on neighbor, not neighborhood association, based on neighbors input over, in my involvement, the last greater part of, you know, almost a year, and then also some, you know, past several years input. So so this is really good conversation, because obviously one or two need, you know, have been or need to be reconsidered, but there are, for the majority of these intersections proposed here, this is not a surprise, and it is completely welcome by the neighborhood. So it's not like an all or none, no contact, or, you know, that there's not an effort. I'm not a board member, I'm just a resident, and I'm working my butt off to contribute to some action that's helpful. And of course, if there's dissent, to also respect that too. So I hope everyone feels, you know, can feel that.
Thank you, Melissa. And Melissa, I can attest, Melissa has worked extremely hard going door to door. There've been, and I'm sorry if your doors were not knocked. I know Melissa and Jim have spent a lot of time going door to door. And this, as you said, it's a response to a lot of neighbors requesting it. I know the neighbors on this particular call did not request it, but many others have. And so that's something to take into account. Now, again, because we asked doesn't mean they're giving anything to us. That may not happen. This is not a done deal. This is a proposal for streets that are of concern. And I was not involved in that discussion, but I assume that's what they brought it forward because there was a focus on east-west streets. And I know, Abby, you mentioned Labor Street. We have been talking with the city about Labor Street for literally the last 10 years. That one is one that Catalyst has said, because it's at least between Lay and Cesar Chavez, it's part of their development, that they may be able to put a stop sign in without going through the studies. That they can do it now, they can't do it later. And that's really, really important, that they do it when there's the option to do that. If they wait until everything is done, then they're not going to be able to do it, because they have to go through a study. And the study is based on the number of cars, not the number of people. And this is supposed to be a walkable neighborhood. So we are constantly discussing that with Catalyst and Saha, and they're talking with the city about where to have it. But there is a state law. The state law requires them to go through these studies. So I'll be honest, I'm not sure how the city was able to say they're going to do it without the studies. So this is just for the ones that we want them to, these are intersections that are problematic. We want them to look at. In the case of Callahan and Lay, you're right, there's not heavy traffic right now. There will be in the near future. And it might be that we wait until SAISD starts to really work on the school, and just like Saha is doing, working in that. So I know Amber wanted to speak. Amber, do you want to go ahead and speak?
Yeah. Hi, sorry, I'm new to the neighborhood. I've been here about a year and I'm trying to like put everything together. I was just in, like, you kind of already addressed it at this point, but coming in here and I'm just concerned about parking for me right now on Callahan and Eager Street and where I'm going to park my vehicle because I really don't have anywhere else to go if this stop sign situation occurs. And nobody's approached me or my husband. I know I've been out of the country, but that was just my concern as well, is like, I don't think anybody got any input from or people in the neighborhood that live in these areas. And I really don't understand the need currently. I understand like new places and I'm trying to get more involved and figure out what's going on with the neighborhood. But I'm just confused of like, I feel like I have more cats crossing the road in this area than I do cars. So I just didn't understand if that's going to impact my parking, what I'm going to do at that point. So, and I know you guys not trying to beat the horse to death, but I was just wondering that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Amber, for saying that. And I'm not sure, there's only 2 houses on that corner. So, and I know which one's Marcy. So I assume you're the other one. You have a fire hydrant right in front of your house, right? So you can't park there anyway. Is that correct? Or
20 feet from
I
the fire
do. So
hydrant.
then if we put a stop sign on either Callahan or Eager and Lee, it limits the side parking. And I have a driveway that does not let me park a vehicle in it. So I'm very concerned about parking as in the neighborhood if this is to go through on either street, Callahan or Lee Street.
Okay, so you park on Lee Street sometimes because there's already stop signs on Eager on both those on Eager on both sides, so you can't park on Eager Street within 30 feet of those stop signs. Unfortunately, people do, but you're not supposed to. And then in front of the fire hydrants, the other one. So your corner is already kind of blocked in. So I will say though that SAISD, so that used to be a admin building, and it didn't have a lot of parking on the street, but whenever they had meetings or events, the parking would get pretty thick, and it's certainly really heavy during events. Now, since the SAISD admin has moved to another location, it's been pretty quiet. And the last year and a half has just been quiet in general, even with, we're not all back to normal. Things are still fairly quiet. There's a lot less traffic now than there usually is. There's a lot less city events. So one of the reasons that a parking plan got into place a few years back is because there were so many city events and so many people parking on the streets that it became problematic for residents. And that was some residents had proposed. We actually made a compromise because the city was trying to make much more restrictive parking, and we wanted to make sure that parking was still available to everyone. So like I said, that's not a done deal. It's certainly part of the conversation. This is what's been proposed. I know there was a block walking effort. If they didn't make it to your house, I'm sorry. Certainly you're welcome to participate in the discussion in any way, shape, or form. I know Jim and Melissa have worked extremely hard on it over the past year or so throughout the neighborhood. Most of it's focused north of Carolina because most of the other streets south of Carolina are dead end, but they are working with some folks on Lotus Street and Jacob Street because those streets are also being used as pass-throughs with pretty heavy traffic and no sidewalks. So those are too small for more stop signs, but there are discussions about traffic calming that include that part of the neighborhood as well. And let me just throw out speed bumps. I know this because I've worked with the city on traffic calming things for a very long time. Speed bumps are so hard to get through because the fire department fights us like crazy on speed bumps. They prefer stop signs to speed bumps, I guess, because they can speed through them. That's not a reason not to request it if that's a possibility. There's certainly a lot of people that hate speed bumps more than stop signs. So there'll be people that fight against that as well. So there's just, we're going to have to compromise on something, but the final goal is making sure that the traffic is safe for pedestrians as well as for drivers. And that's something that I think the whole neighborhood could agree on. See a couple of comments in the chat. Is there any questions? Does somebody want to speak?
I had one more comment. Sharice, I said I wanted to raise my hand.
Okay.
I think the two points, you made a point about people parking too close to the stop sign and, you needed something there at the church to keep them so you couldn't. stop signs aren't parking enforcement and they won't stop that. So if we need parking enforcement, let's put up a no parking sign and get parking enforcement. But a stop sign isn't a substitute for that, number one. And I just want to reiterate that, you know, I don't think, you know, I appreciate that Melissa and Jim have worked very hard on this, that they saw a problem and they took it to the city. But something that's as big as this in the neighborhood needs to be discussed with the neighborhood before it goes to the city, so we don't get put in the adversarial position of having to create opposition to something which makes a, you know, we all got to still live in this neighborhood. So it's a much easier conversation if we have it up front and we can understand the concerns, and that you can understand our concerns as a committee or as a board, than having to do this after the fact.
Thanks, Marcy. And like I say, it's not a done deal. This is part of the conversation moving forward. And really, it was based on a conversation with a lot of people. So what I would request now is you all have Jim and Melissa's contact information. They're really going to continue to lead this charge. If it's something that you're concerned about, please contact them. Many others in the neighborhood have contacted Jim and Melissa, or they've contacted the board to ask for help in getting traffic calming measures, and we've asked the city, and that includes the council office, to look into it. So definitely, if it's something that you're concerned about, and obviously you are, I recommend that you contact them to get involved. Nothing is done in secret. Everything is done pretty transparently. So the information is out there, and this is part of the conversation. So thanks for your time and for sharing all those issues with us, because that is important as well to hear from all sides on the case. I'm going to go ahead and move on because it's late and we don't want to be here all night. So just quickly, a couple years ago, we had Art in the Park, which was a very positive thing. People really enjoyed it. There's a proposal to do an art walk kind of event instead on one of the streets, probably Divine Street, for a variety of reasons. That street was chosen. I don't know if that's going to happen. And I don't want to spend a lot of time getting into that, just because COVID's putting things off and our board has limited capacity to plan things. But if it's something that interests you at all, please contact us. And again, when a message goes to president@lavaca.net, that's just the easiest one for me to say. There are other emails, they're posted on the website, but I read that daily and I send it off to the board member who's responsible for it. So just because it comes to, I'm the one that reads it, it goes off to everybody who's relevant. So I'm not gonna go too much into that because I don't feel like we have enough, I don't have enough time to work on that. But the one other thing I want to talk about was membership and board participation. So I talked a little bit already about board participation. We're always looking for new board members. Our board meetings are typically the first Monday of the month. The information is online. They've been virtual for the most part. We did have one in person, and then we had to go back to virtual. Anybody is welcome to join. You have to request to join a couple days in advance, and you're given limited time to speak because we're conscientious that the board has business to do, and we can't spend all night on one topic. So we would give somebody time to speak on board topics. I try to post the agenda in advance. That doesn't always happen. I apologize. We're all volunteers, so sometimes we're a little behind on things, but we are trying to do that. So the first Monday of the month are the board meetings, and anybody is welcome to sit in on those. Just let us know in advance so we can plan for your participation. And certainly if you want to join the board, let us know. We always need new members. We have committees that you can work on. It's best if somebody has spent some time on the board in a committee, or at least been at meetings, so they have a general idea of the things that we do. I will say that we meet every month. There's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And we don't bring all of it, because if I brought every case to you, you'd be overwhelmed. But there's a lot, but we could always use help. So please help us. And also we need to increase our membership. So because we haven't been meeting in person, we haven't really had a membership drive. You can sign up online at lavaca.net. And if you sign up now, it's good for all of 2022. So in January, we will have board elections for 2 positions. And to be able to vote in that election, you have to be a paid paid in full, which is like $20 or something, board member, I mean, not board member, sorry, Lavaca Neighborhood Association member to be eligible to participate in the election. So hopefully we're going to be able to do that in person this year and have our annual potluck, which we haven't been able to do, but we're really missing that. So we'll stay tuned, pay attention to our information online. If you haven't signed up for the e-blast, please do so, so that you can get information. It goes out every 2 weeks. Thank you, Amy, for doing that. We also try to keep up on Nextdoor and Facebook, and a little bit of Twitter, and Instagram, maybe not so much. So if you have it, if you're on social media, please follow us on those places so that you can keep updated on what's happening. With that, I'm gonna let's see, do we have any information for how long? You know what, Abby, so Abby's asked about Labor Street and Cesar Chavez. I have no idea, and I was just thinking about that today. When they told us it wasn't going to be that long, it was for a few months, and this is kind of indefinitely. So let me check with the builders to see what their plan is about that street, because it has been closed for a very long time. I always forget about it when I go that way. So hopefully that project will get moving forward. Any other questions or comments before we go? It's 8:14.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you know what? Okay, thank you all. I just want to say, I know we had some reps. Sarah, did you want to say something?
Hi, yes, I'll just give a really super quick update. So we just started, I'm from Representative Bernal's office. Sorry, my name is Sarah Duran. We just started the 3rd special session. So there's going to be like a lot going on with redistricting right now. And then there's a few other things on the agenda from Governor Abbott, like the American Rescue Plan, the UIL bill, and some COVID vaccine mandate bills and issues. I'll send out an e-blast later to the president email that you mentioned so that you can kind of fill everybody in on that. With that e-blast, that'll have a lot of information. But that's essentially it. If you have any policy questions or questions about legislation going on currently, there will be contact information for the chief of staff at our office, who's a good point of contact for those questions. I've dropped my information in the chat a little earlier, but that will also be posted, and our district director's information will be posted as well. We're still not currently intending in-person meetings, so this is kind of what we're working with currently, but we're definitely always available, and our office phone number and email will also be in that e-blast that will be sent out later. Sorry, super quick, but I know that we're running a little late, so I just wanted to get my information out there.
Thank you, Sarah. And I know we had a rep from Commissioner Rebecca Clay Flores's office, and I'm not sure if we had any others. You have a minute or not to say anything?
Awesome, I love her.
Hi, this is Patty Hernandez. I'm from Commissioner Clay Flores' office. I am the Outreach and Technology Director. I do a lot of constituent calls. I take a lot of calls from constituents, but I'm available at the information I left on the chat. So, you know, reach out to us if you need to share anything with us, an idea or an issue that you might be having. We're available, and it's been a really good 9 months, almost complete 9 months. I've had a lot of fun. I actually came from the Alamo colleges. I worked at St. Philip's for a long time, so it was a big change for me, but I'm really enjoying it. So we're there to serve you.
Thank you.
Rebecca is the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will share.
Right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:17. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Sharice. Bye.
Let's see.